who's granddaughter to Bill. And I've been asked by the family to be here to speak to you on behalf of the family as a celebration to Bill's life. And throughout this celebration, we will be shown how wonderful a life that was. However, before we begin, I'd like to share a few things with you first. First, as I look out here today and see everybody who's here, I do not see friends and family. All I see is family. If you are a friend of Bill's, you are family to Bill. So I want to welcome the family who is here to support each other and celebrate the life of Bill. Secondly, I want to express to everybody that it is okay to be sorrowful and have grief and be mournful today. Times like today are tough. But I want to point out that there is a reason for this. And that reason is because Jesus, when his friend Lazarus died, was also mournful. In the Gospel of John, you see Jesus' friend Lazarus in chapter 11. He succumbs to death as well. And the entire town comes out to mourn his death. And Jesus shows up and speaks to Mary and Martha. And you see in verse 35 there, we have the shortest verse in all the Bible given there, and it says Jesus wept, or he wept. And so Jesus, the Son of God, can weep at a time of loss and a time of sorrow, then it is okay for us to show that same emotion today as well. Finally, I believe these emotions should be expressed with the attitude of hope and celebration. Bill lived a life that was a celebration. Proverbs 13:12 writes, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life." When we do not have hope, hope for now, hope for the future, for things to come, we make our hearts sick. But when we have that hope, when we have our desires fulfilled in life, we are like a tree of life bursting out. Bill fulfilled his desires for Barb, his desires for his daughters and his grandchildren, his desires for gathering and celebrations, his desires for the love of Christmas seasons, and most importantly, his desire for music and sailing. Because of these things, Bill was a tree of life. He had the hope of life in him. And these desires fulfilled within his life. Therefore, in our grief and sorrow today, we need to apply it with the celebration, knowing that the man we are here to celebrate today lived it according to his way and fulfilled his desires. We need to celebrate it knowing two things. One, we can do the same with ours. And two, Bill is at rest after a life fulfilled with the greatest desires of his. Let us begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, creator and author of life, we thank you for the life that was before us. We thank you for the privilege we had in knowing and having Bill as part of our lives. We thank you for the man he was, how you created him, and what he brought to each and every one of our lives. We thank you and lift the celebration of life up to you. In your great name we pray. Amen. With this said, I want to thank you all for coming to the celebration of life that was William Bill Schock. There's so much to remember a great man by. And what you're going to see today is just a glimpse of what he brought to this world. Whether it be gathering his family together and sharing in a great feast for the holidays, making his son-in-law set up his Christmas decorations to his exact specs and drawings. And there's anything you can think of to celebrate his life. But none more can be celebrated than three things: family, sailing, and music. And those are what we are going to celebrate here today and highlight. And you can see that by the multitude of sailing trophies and instruments that you saw up front. And we even have a band here to perform to pay respect to a great man, member, and mentor. With all this said, I'd like to invite up Ron Hazenberg to discuss a little bit about Bill and his music before the band performs a song in remembrance of one of its members.
Get situated here. Wise words, right? Wise. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm so honored to be here today and thankful to Bill's family for including me in today's celebration. Family, sailing, and music. There we go. The past few weeks I have been reminiscing, and as I'm sure many of you have been doing at such times, and while sharing memories with Laura about her father, at times we'd be laughing pretty hard, actually, just in sharing stories, and she would say, "Ron, you need to share some of those stories about Bill at his service." And so I shall. Like many of you, I came to know Bill through music, and more specifically, through band music. In August of 1994, this seems like a long time ago, as I was headed into my second year at Evergreen High School, the board of the Highland Community Band met with me and asked me if I would consider being their director. I believe that was Gordon Somerville and Russ Parker, and also Mike. I think you were, where's Mike Gradle back there? Yes, you were there as well. And I asked him to give me a week to think about it. I needed to get home to my wife Tina and ask her if that'd be okay, because it's a pretty big decision. And so we met again, and I signed on, but only for one concert at a time. Just one concert. I wanted to see how that was going to go. That one concert at a time turned into 15 years. As years went by. But Bill was not in the band when I first started. He had been a member in previous years, and he eventually came back and asked to jump back in. He had been scoping out the band under this, as he called me, this young whippersnapper director, and he wanted to kind of keep an eye on it and see if it'd be worth his time. And what a fine addition he made to the percussion section. But at first, I was a bit concerned. Here comes one of those stories. There was another gentleman in the section, and he and Bill did not play well together. They did not, and both very fine gentlemen, and proud of their accomplishments as percussionists. And anyone who knows, especially if you're in the front, all right, band, being involved in such an organization as this band can be a little bit of a soap opera. Bill and Russ were very eager to correct each other's mistakes. And I'd see Bill, I'd be up conducting, and I'd see Bill head across over to Russ to give him a peace of mind about something, and I'd go, "Oh, Lord, help me, Lord Almighty. What have I signed up for?" And other times, of course, Russ would head over there and return the favor of offering Bill his sage advice, which was not usually well received. I mean, I've been Barb, she knows this. But then came Sarah. Sounds like a biblical thing. Sarah was a wonderful young lady and an exquisite percussionist. She was just a wonderful musician. And Sarah and I, we came up with a plan. If Bill started to head Russ's way, Sarah would kind of step in and head him off at the pass. She'd pull a piece of music out and say, "Excuse me, Bill, I need your advice. You're such a great player. Can you help me on this interpretation of this snare part? And how would you play that?" And I'd go, "This is too cool." Because he would just stop in his tracks to help her. So that kind of solved that problem. After a time, due to wonderful students, many of whom are here and playing in the band, also wonderful parents at Evergreen High School. Again, who are all sprinkled out throughout the crowd today. The Evergreen band started rolling along. And one morning as the band was on the field rehearsing their halftime show out there about 6:30 in the morning or 7 o'clock, I looked over and here's Bill standing right in the middle of the track. Got his hands in his pockets like this and just standing there like this. And I'm thinking, Lord. Well, following rehearsal, we walked back to the band room together, and Bill asked if he could be of help, and perhaps working with the percussion section. Well, as any teacher knows, just the thought of having another adult in the room gets your pulse rate just going a little bit higher, much less a fine musician like Bill. He was an invaluable help over the next few years, teaching the students and often teaching that young whippersnapper director next to him. And along the way, we became friends. Bill was spending quite a lot of time, because he had been retired, I believe, from his former job. And he was spending some time there every day. And eventually he asked if he could be more involved, perhaps as an assistant director. He wanted to conduct. I think that was the deal. So that's what we did, with Bill volunteering as an assistant or an associate director. And I went to Gail Barnum, the principal at that time. I said, "Gail, we need to pay this guy. he's doing a lot of work. He's helping this band program to thrive. And so Gail went to bat, and she actually created, for the first time in history, and since, an associate director of bands position within the Highline School District. And I said, woohoo, 2 directors. Not quite Texas, but a big step for us. And I looked at Bill and said, now I can tell you what to do. But there was a hitch. Bill had to apply for the job. Here comes another story, Laura. He had to put together a resume. He had to complete the application, go through, I don't know, FBI checks, make sure he wasn't a member of the Taliban or something like that. And he had to submit references. And during this time one morning, we were sitting in the office, and Bill says, Ron, I got a problem. All my references are dead. we laughed so hard, we just laughed so hard, we cried, and I looked at him and said, you have to be nice to me now, don't you? You need a letter of reference, don't you? He smiled, he said, please. Over the next few years, we just had a ball together. We really did. I think we had more fun than the students, actually. Wonderful performance trips to Victoria, those wonderful concerts, band festivals and halftime shows and Husky Band Days. And I think the kids were the true beneficiaries of learning under Bill. I remember one end of the season football game, and some of you were there. I know Brian was there, and I think Michelle was there too. It was the end of the season, and at our last game, we would invite anybody to come and play with us, former students, staff members, maybe people that graduated, in 1900 whatever. And we had a band of over 300 people in the Highline football stadium. You look up, I thought I was in the music band or something. And John Kellett was the principal at that time, and sitting next to him was Marty Van Rokel, the other vice principal, and John Herron. 3 administrators in one place, playing with the band and not concerned about any discipline issues at all. I have a picture of it, so I have proof. But anyway, we were coming along, and these people got so excited. I think we were playing Hang On Sloopy or something like that during a timeout of the quarter, and we couldn't stop the band. The referees want to get the football game going, and the band is just screaming away. Both sides of the stadium were standing up, and they're just all dancing away. It's like Ferris Bueller's Day Off or something. And the crowd was just going crazy. And one of the referees came over and said, "Sir, this is so amazing, but we gotta do the football game. Can you stop the band?" I said, "Well, in a minute." And so, very exciting times. The coach from the other team came over to me at the end of that when we were putting stuff away and said, he says, excuse my language, he says, that's the damnedest band I've ever heard in my life. Very exciting. After the game, I'm past that part here. Looking. Excuse me. There we go. We went through a lot of apples at those. I see some smiles now. We would pass out apples, and we'd slice them up and put them on napkins and pass them out to the kids in the band, because we didn't want them taking those gorgeous uniforms and go and getting, strawberry ices all over the uniforms. And when Bill was the director of Bremerton East, those kids over there, they weren't as, I don't know, maybe as nice as the kids from Rat City. They would throw the apples. Is that right? Yeah. Boy, gosh, those military kids throwing apples all over the place. As much as Bill enjoyed being a part of the Evergreen Band program, I really feel that I got the better part of the deal. Because along with Bill came Barb. What a lady. Her gentle, calm manner, backed by a steely determination, and her superior management skills were put to use in events that we did at our school, and what a treasure. And let's get real, this woman can cook. If you've ever been to the Shog table, you know that. My family and I were welcomed into their home for holidays and Friendsgivings and family events, and we were just wrapped into their fold. And as Ryan said, we became family, and further deepening our friendship. I remember it as if it were yesterday, sitting in Grace Church during a holiday concert, watching and listening to the Evergreen Symphonic Band play Salvation Is Created. Bill was conducting. Jennifer Bach was playing the first horn part beautifully. Must be hereditary. I should be looking at Dana for that part, not Brian. And I thought, how lucky are these students, and how lucky am I to have Bill with us. On the stage today, as requested by his family, is one of Bill's timpani. And we pulled it out of that treasure chest of a garage the other day. All those Christmas ones need to go. Dan is covering the timpani part for Salvation is Created, and while Dan is an incredibly accomplished percussionist, I'm pretty sure that he's going to be channeling a little bit of Bill in playing the timpani part on this music that Bill so loved. And I will close with this thought. I would like to think that Bill's life was richer for us having been friends, because surely my life was richer for having been friends with him. Thank you. I get to go wave the stick now.
We're going to do a little informal thing here. They've been sitting for a while with me, Jeff. How should you about this?
Thank you to Ron and thank you to the band for that beautiful rendition. Music was not the only passion of Bill's life, though he's been quoted to say that when he's taught music, that it never felt like he went to work a day in his life. And that is why when he retired from Boeing, that it was so natural for him to go back to Evergreen to teach. But like I just mentioned, it's not his only passion. I've been married into this family to Amanda for almost 11 years now, and Amanda and I know that if there's ever a place we need to go for the holidays, or if we ever need to cool off on a hot summer day for swimming, or just any other reason to escape and get away from the world, that Grandpa Bobby's was the place to go. Bill loved to pack his house full of people. Sometimes it was so full that you couldn't even turn to the side without elbowing somebody else. But that is who Bill was. He was a person who loved to host and loved to celebrate. He loved his family. And that's what those celebrations were. They were a gathering of those who were nearest and dearest to him. So to speak today on behalf of the family, I'd like to invite up 3 generations of family that want to speak on the celebration that was Bill's life. So I'd like to invite up his daughter, Laura DePreet, his granddaughter, Beth Paulson, and his brother, Jim Shaw, all who want to share on Bill's life from a different perspective and different generation.
On behalf of our entire family, I really want to say thank you for being here to celebrate the life of my dad, Bill. My father was a special man that touched the lives of many people in many different ways. He was a man that not only loved living his passions, he loved sharing them with others. We'll hear a lot today about his passion for music, boating, and possibly his love of cooking. But I wanted to share some about the passion that he had for his family. First and foremost, my dad was a provider. He taught us by example how important it was to be independent and always be there to support your family. Back in the 60s, when we were just little tykes, he sacrificed weeks away at a time from his family to attend Vandercook College of Music while pursuing his master's degree in music education so that he could live his passion and support his family at the same time. He was a man of few words, unless you were talking about music or boats. But when he spoke, we listened because we were either in trouble or he was trying to teach us something in that moment. He was a man with a heart of gold and a booming voice that could be intimidating, but we learned through the years it was just his unique communication style. Although he wasn't always known as a patient father, he was a forgiving father. I have a fond memory of driving to Bremerton one summer day to pick up his paycheck. He left us girls in the car, and he told us if we behaved while he was in the bank, he would get us to McDonald's for lunch. Once in the bank, Debbie and I started playing with our Barbie dolls in the back seat of the car. And then we felt a jolt as the car rolled forward and ran into the car in front of us because Stephanie had taken the car out of gear. Stephanie was too little to know how much trouble she'd be in, but Debbie and I were horrified because we knew we were supposed to be keeping an eye on her. In the end, he was just as angry as we figured he would be, but he took us to McDonald's anyway. I also believe he was fully aware of what was going on when his pots and pans disappeared because Debbie would rather throw them over the fence than wash them. And the time that I moved my dresser into the hallway to cover a hole I put in the wall and spent days telling him I was just moving my bedroom around and I needed it out of the way. Like I said, he was a forgiving father. His being an educator was always an experience as his children because he always knew when the report cards came out. And as a music teacher, he was a stickler about daily practice. Dad always taught us that if you want to be good at something, you have to give it your best and practice, practice, practice. I remember being sent up to my room to practice my cornet for the mandatory 30 minutes, and he would sit downstairs listening. Not only was he listening to how we were performing or improving or not, if he heard the music stop at all, or if we came down early, he would absolutely let us know that we needed to go back up and finish. Dad's education in music was really enjoyable when my sister Debbie and I started junior high school because we were both taught by the same band director that my dad had when he went to school at Puget Sound. If you think falling behind a straight-A sibling with a teacher is difficult, you should try to understand what it was like trying to follow in my father's footsteps. We never had a first name. Mr. Cosby just referred to us as Shaw. And we would always cringe on concert nights when we knew Dad would track down Mr. Cosby and have a nice chat about how we were doing. Back then, I didn't have the capacity to understand all that I was learning from him about the importance of working at your craft. But when I took piano lessons as an adult, I found myself practicing without fail for 30 minutes a day, and was always prepared by the next lesson to move on to a new song because I had mastered the lesson from the week before. The lessons he taught us were not always evident in the moment, but will resonate in our souls for a lifetime. The most important thing we would want the world to know about our dad is about the pride and extreme love he had for his family. He was married to the love of his life for 54 amazing years. And although they went through many challenges and hardships along the way, they were in it together, side by side, come what may. They weathered many storms, experienced many wonderful times together, and cherished each other along the way. Together, they built a life filled with family, tradition, and unconditional love. As we grew up, moved away, and started our own families, he took on the role of grandfather, and that was very special and meaningful to him. He continued to inspire, teach, and encourage his grandchildren to live their passion, love one another, and keep family close. He loved being surrounded by his family, whether it was enjoying a casual Sunday dinner at the lake, gatherings on the boat, or any holiday he and Mom were able to host family and friends. Christmas was always his favorite, and everything down to the preparations outside and inside the house were a community event filled with family. He and Mom hosted a yearly event every Christmas season where people would bring toys and other gifts for the children at Youth Dykeman Center for more than 20 years. On Christmas Eve, he and Mom not only hosted family, extended family, and friends for prime rib and a little chaos. They would also welcome anyone we knew that may not have a place to celebrate. All were welcome. And he would light up like a Christmas tree, stand in the kitchen in his chef's jacket, slicing the prime rib, and making the gravy we could all drink from a cup if he let us. It was so good. My dad was and will continue to be an inspiration to reach for the sky. Do what you love and take care of those around you. When I think about what message my dad would want to leave for all of us to remember, it would be a quote by Arthur O'Shaughnessy. We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams. I believe that he would want us all to find whatever our music is, put action behind it, and turn our dreams into reality.
William Alexander Schillock held many titles to all of you in this auditorium today. He was a devoted and adoring husband to my grandmother for 53 years, a stern yet proud father to my mother Debbie and my aunts Laura and Stephanie. He was a supportive brother to his only sibling Jim, a passionate teacher to many talented students, and a loyal, lifelong friend to all. I truly believe that the amount of people in this room today is a testament to just how special his relationships with all of you were. But to me, Samantha, Amanda, Nicholas, Lacey, and Maggie, he was Grandpa. A title that he treasured more than anything in this world, and he took his role of Grandpa very seriously too. How do you describe a man that was so complex? Grandpa was tough, yet dulcet, strict and mellow. He was always extremely honest and direct, and just when you feel like labeling him as an authoritarian, he shows a side of himself that felt deeply for the less fortunate. Never missed a chance to hold one of his grandbabies, and when he danced with my grandmother, his love for her radiated throughout the room, so much so that everyone around him could feel it. My grandfather's knowledge was unquestionable, his passion was undeniable, and his teaching was one of a kind. My grandpa had many passions in life, and he loved sharing those passions with his grandchildren. He had a devout love for music, and he had prayed that just one day one of us would inherit some of his musical talent. I remember one Christmas he bought us all keyboards in hopes that one of us would show some interest in taking lessons or learning to read music. Can't speak for Amanda's and Nick's keyboard, but mine and Samantha's got a few renditions of Mary Had a Little Lamb and a little hot cross buns action, but for the most part it was a dust collector. As we got older, to my grandfather's dismay, most of us stood firm on our decision not to play an instrument. However, Nicholas chose a different route. He found that he too had a passion for music, whether it came from constant jazz music that was playing while we swam in the pool, or going to watch Grandpa's concerts with the Highland Community Band in this very auditorium we sit in today. He had decided that he wanted to learn how to play many different instruments just as Grandpa did. I remember the first time Nicholas told Grandpa he was taking band class. Grandpa's eyes lit up and then poor Nicholas did not stand a chance. The next couple of hours were filled with questions and advice of Grandpa's days teaching kids that were Nicholas's age. He may have not known it at the time, but he had the best mentor of all time. Grandpa loved going to Nicholas's concerts, and when Nicholas was afforded a spot in the Husky Marching Band, Grandpa could not have been prouder. Though none of his other grandchildren played instruments, a few of us were blessed with beautiful voices, and Grandpa wouldn't miss a chance to go watch Amanda, Lacey, or Maggie sing at their annual cabaret show, or pretty much any performance they were in. He was certainly a stage grandpa if you've ever heard of such a term. He would sit back, watch intently, smile fondly, and then after the show, he would tell them how great they did, and then make a comment or two about what the band had done differently. That was Grandpa though. Perfection did not exist, and there was always room for improvement. He taught us to practice our craft, whether it be playing the tuba as Nicholas did, singing as Lacey, Amanda, and Maggie did, or being an athlete as Samantha and I were. Practice does not make perfect, it makes progress. Grandpa taught us so many lessons, some bigger than others, but none of them stuck with me more than the time my sister and I went to the San Juan Islands with Grandma and Grandpa. They took all of his grandchildren on annual trips, and it was some of our fondest memories with him. Samantha and I were around 13 and 10 at the time. Grandpa had sent us up to the store to pick out some butter for dinner that night. So Samantha and I trucked it up to the store with cash in hand, and we noticed that margarine was cheaper than butter. They looked the same, so we went with margarine and thought we could make a buck or two off the deal. We got back with margarine, and Grandpa was outraged. Margarine was not butter. He proceeded to give us a lecture on the difference between the two, and then sent us promptly back to the store to correct our mistake. Though a small lesson, it was one that has stuck, and as an adult, I will say that I have never bought a stick of margarine. As many of you know, my grandfather had a passion for sailing and yachting. He would take the family out on the boat any chance he would get, even if it was just for a stroll around the Puget Sound. My favorite is when he would take us through the locks. Grandpa knew what he was doing, and watching him captain the boat and maneuver through the locks was always fun to watch. We all loved it when he would let us drive the boat. Even though he may have had PTSD from when my mother taught the sailboat around as a young girl. Sorry, Mom. He wanted us to have the experience, and it is one that we'll remember to this day. Now, he definitely did not stray far from the wheel, but for the time that we were driving, he did his best to make us feel as though we were the captains now. On Amanda's senior prom night, he even let her and a group of her friends come out to the yacht afterwards to enjoy dessert in the beautiful scenery of Seattle. That was just the type of grandpa he was. He wanted to give us wonderful experiences and memories, and he did just that. Maggie and Lacey are quite a few years younger than the rest of us, so I have very vivid memories of them with Grandpa as babies. When Lacey was about 2 or 3, she found Cats, yes, the musical Cats, DVD somewhere. Probably at Grandma's and Grandpa's house, to be honest. She would play this DVD over and over again, and she would dance to the whole musical. She knew every song, and Grandpa loved watching her perform it. He was the only one that would hide the DVD from her. No, he would gladly play it over and over again, even if the rest of us were tired of hearing Jellicle Cats on repeat. He would let his grandbabies have whatever they wanted, even though he did get a kick out of teasing Maggie with her binky when she wanted it. Maggie, being the youngest out of all of us, had a special bond with Grandpa. Even though she's the youngest and has been around the least amount of time, she surprisingly has 10 times more pictures than any of the other grandchildren with him. Just like Lacey, Maggie had a fondness for playing movies over and over again. She once found Grandpa's old 60s beach movies, and just like Cats, Grandpa sat with Maggie and watched them over and over again. He even let her take them home, and though he may have wanted them back, 5 years has passed and they're still in her possession. Grandpa could be serious and stoic at times, but he also had a very loud, vibrant, silly side to him too. We will never forget the first 4th of July, and yet his husband Ryan spent with the family. We were all sitting back watching the family firework display. It was actually more like a bunch of drunk, grown men acting like children lighting things on fire, but we called it a firework display. Ryan was eager to fit in with the guys, and in doing so, managed to catch the neighbor's house on fire. As we all rushed around and panicked to put out the fire, Grandpa comes out from around the bushes, but he doesn't have a hose in his hand. He has his cymbals, and he's banging them around saying, "Burn, baby, burn." That moment will forever be burned, yes, pun intended, in our memories of Grandpa. As we naturally got older, Samantha was the first one to give Grandpa the title of Great Grandpa, or Grandpa Bobby as the littles referred to him. He was thrilled to gain this new title and went right out and bought little Seda her first present ever. She was probably still in her first trimester, but Grandpa couldn't wait, and he wanted to show Samantha just how proud he was to be Great Grandpa. After Seda came Clara, Marley, and Elijah. And Grandpa was excited to start teaching the new generation. I'm truly devastated that my future children will never get a chance to meet the Great Grandpa Bobby. But he will have a lot of my memories of him. I'll be sure to pass on the lessons he's taught me. Practice your craft every day, and when you feel like you practiced enough, practice 15 minutes longer. Family is everything, and traditions are important. Marriage is hard work, but if you work hard at it, you can have a beautiful family and leave a legacy in this world, just as my grandma and grandpa have. And last at least margarine is not butter. Thank you.
Boy, everybody came prepared. I did too. I have the distinction of being the only person here that's known Bill the longest. As it says in the picture, he was born April 12, 1945, when Franklin Roosevelt died. And he also passed away on our grandfather's birthday. The first time I met Bill was around February 25th, 1947. I'm pretty sure he was looking at me as they stuck me in the bottom drawer of a dresser because they didn't have a bassinet. And shortly after that, we moved to the house on 14th. We were getting a little bit bigger. We were tying the dog to the wagon and having him pull us around the yard one day up there by the garage, and he decided to take off down the stairs to the house. That was a learning experience because we used to have a big holly tree there, and it's not easy to land in a holly tree. One day when we were up in the garage, it had an attic space that was all, had a floor on it and everything, but it had a roof hatch at that time. And we were up there on the roof. Parents were at work. And Bill looked down and said, "That's not that far up, but we can jump off of here." And he did. And I climbed down the normal way, and he was down there holding his leg. It was fortunate at the time because he just learned how to play the drums, and it's easy to carry drumsticks when you're on crutches. If it would have happened to me, it would have been bad because I took up the trombone. I used the case to carry my trombone and my books to school. And I tell my kids we had to walk up the hill both ways going to Puget Sound Junior High. But as time moved on, Bill got into high school and he met Barb. And from that moment on, I couldn't use the phone for anything because it was always stuck to his ear. It had a long cord on it. He used to drag it all the way into the den, and he'd sit in there and he'd talk to her for privacy. But I was always proud of my brother. One day he come home from school, God was going to beat me up. And two other older guys, they said, "Hey, you better not do that because his brother is the captain of the safety patrol of Puget Sound." They were impressed. It didn't stop them, but they were impressed. So when I got to Puget Sound, of course I had to be a member of the safety patrol, and I never rose to his rank. But Bill was well into music then, and we both had Mr. Cosby. My first grade for Mr. Cosby was an F. And as my dad was proceeding to instruct me on how a beating would take place, he came in and said, "Don't know, Dad, he always gives the first students an F the first quarter." But I remember he got a little group together, a little band, and they played at one of the in the gym. We had a little, I don't know what they were doing, some kind of a concert or something, and they were playing, And I was in the girls' end, so I was telling all the girls, hey, that's my brother on drums, you know. And I was always surprised that he decided to put his initials on his drums, BS. It was a wonderful childhood with Bill as my brother because we did so many things together. Boats. Me, not so much music. I think he has my trombone. But we were always in the boats down on the beach. We took we had a little green glass bar and we were supposed to use the 6 horsepower work on it. And one day we decided we were going to put the 25 on it, see how that little 10-foot boat would go. And as we proceeded out to Three Tree Point, going faster than I've ever got on a boat before in my life, all of a sudden it stopped and I turned around and I'm looking at him and he's looking at me and the motor's gone. And so we proceeded to take one oar and paddle back to the house, just wondering what we were going to tell everybody. As things went on, Bill and Bart got married, and they had a baby, Debbie, and then Laura, and then Stephanie. I remember he got this job teaching music at the DuPont School District. And I thought, oh well, you know, so one day I was going down south and I happened to come upon this town called DuPont, and I was thinking to myself, who would drive all that way to teach a bunch of kids music? Apparently somebody that had a great passion for it. And then he got a better job at Bremerton, not much closer. But growing up, I always admired him because when he did something, he stuck at it. Myself, you know, I was kind of a wanderlust, you know, I like to travel a lot, so after he was secure with his wife and his kids and stuff, I started to spend some time leaving Seattle. And fortunately, I ended back up here when I met my wife, Debbie. But I will always miss him. I always loved him. And I guess I'll just have to go on without him. At least I'll finally catch up to him in age. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, Laura, and Beth, for sharing those memories of the man who meant so much to each of you. Now I'd like to welcome up Dan Kexel, who would like to share a few words before the band plays a couple more songs in remembrance of Bill.
Thank you very much. Before I say a few words, I just wanted to thank the family again for including us in the service and me asking me to be the speaker. I'm of the people who have been here on stage so far, I probably knew Bill the least amount of time. But in that amount of time, in the past 10 years, I've truly appreciated him. I knew Bill a little bit through my colleague, Ron Hazenberg, before I joined the band as their director in 2009. And I just have a few things to share with you. One is, of course, the thing that I knew most often about Bill is that he he didn't suffer fools very easily. He really didn't. My first year in 2009 directing the band, I was really excited, but I was very nervous a lot of the time. And I said some foolish things and did some things that were like, yeah, kind of, you know, I look back and that was probably not the best thing to do. And he did not hold back. he let me know. He let me know the good, he let me know the things that I needed to improve. But it was because he was so dedicated to the group, he was so dedicated to the music, he wanted it done well, he wanted it done great. He became a mentor of mine my entire time here as a director. He was always the first person at the podium at the rehearsal break, like right up there, telling me, you know, you could have done this. I think this could have been a little different, and you need to watch for this. And, you know, so it was almost like having a clinician in rehearsal, like every week. It was really, really amazing. And again, he became a real mentor to me in that regard. It was obvious he knew an incredible amount of music, and I learned from him. I learned quite a bit from him. I really did. The second thing that all of you know about Bill that I came to know is that he was very dedicated, and he was a very detail-oriented person. It was a rare time that I came to rehearsal earlier than he did. I would show up, you know, 45 minutes before rehearsal. He'd already had his sticks out, tuning timpani. I mean, as the director, he kind of made me feel like less dedicated, as I should have been, because, you know, he's always there before me. And as far as detail-oriented, I mean, all you had to do was look at the man's fingernails. I mean, he had attention to detail. His manicure game was just on point, you know? He was a real, just precise person, and he did everything. He wanted to do everything right and everything well, and I appreciate that an incredible amount from him. And lastly, he was extremely dedicated and extremely generous, both towards us as an organization and towards everybody that I knew. At all three of the places that we have rehearsed in my tenure as the director, at Evergreen, then later we rehearsed at Highline High School, and then we currently rehearse at Rainier High School. He has spent a lot of money and a lot of his personal time improving the percussion equipment at all of those schools. Every time we come to a new rehearsal space or performance space, he would say, you know, oh, this needs to be fixed and this needs to be fixed, and he would just get right to it. And he would just buy all the parts and just get it done. And that just is really amazing, because he wanted not only things to be fixed, but he wanted to make sure that they were not only fixed for us so we could perform on them, but for all the high school kids at that facility. Again, I really, really appreciated my time with him. And we have a few things to share with you tonight, or this afternoon. First of all, we're going to be playing a piece called Nimrod from the Enigma Variations. This is a piece of music that Bill came to me in the spring and asked me if he could conduct. We've had several people come up and conduct besides me, had guest conductors, and he came to me and said, I would like to direct this group, this piece next year, and I said, absolutely, of course. And I actually arranged my fall concert kind of around this piece of music. Well, unfortunately, he fell ill. He wasn't able to conduct it. So we sort of shelved it, and it was my plan to bring it back in the spring when he was well. And unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. We're going to be performing it for you this evening. The other thing that we're going to be doing is a movement from Lincolnshire Posey entitled Horkstowe Grange. Just a few weeks ago, Bill talked to me and he said, you know what, I think the band can play this song. This is actually a very large suite of pieces, and it's a very challenging piece for an ensemble to perform. And he said, you know, I think the group has come a long way and I think they can do it. And he was actually has a full score in parts that we're actually going to be using this spring. We're going to be playing nearly all of the movements. So we're going to be playing off of his music. So we're going to be sharing a little bit of those for you this afternoon.
Thank you to the band again for that rendition of those songs, and thank you to Dan for your words. As you can see from Ron and Dan, memories aren't just reserved for family, or for the people who knew Bill their entire lives. Myself, I will admit, and Beth's story, was the one who lit the neighbor's house on fire that night with the wrong mortar. I had just proposed to Amanda a couple months before, and met Bill and Barb that very night. So, hearing cymbals and the sound of "Burn Baby Burn" while watching the neighbor's property burn to the ground made it just a little bit more manageable to stomach. Or there's the time where Laura and John got the sailboat. I believe Bill and Barb got that for them. Because they live on what they call a lake, I call it a body of water, because I don't think it's big enough for that. But that's a side note. Bill, Barb, and the entire rest of the family came down to watch this majestic vessel take voyage. Bill, Scott, John, Chuck, everybody helped get the rigging all set, put the sails together, everything was all set to sail. And if my memory is correct, I was the first, if not, or one of the first, to set sail on the boat because of everybody's fear for the water quality out there. Nobody knew if it was going to tip, sink, or what was going to happen, so they needed a guinea pig, and I was such the pig. So I get into this boat, I rowed out to the middle of the body of water. I have John in a paddle boat next to me just in case. The boat's about the size of the table right here, so I'm laying down with it, grabbing the rudder behind me, the sails just over the top of my head. And I have never sailed or really been on anything without a motor before. before. So the only instructions I've ever had was about a 5-minute instruction from Grandpa on the shore before I rode out there. So I have his lessons, I pull the paddle in, I get as comfortable as you can in a boat about that size and being my height. And I start to pull on the rope slightly and methodically, trying to get everything to work, but the boat is going nowhere. I'm dead in the water, I'm not going anywhere, and so when you're dead in the water and you have absolutely no sailing experience, you start to freak out. And when you freak out, you forget the stuff that was taught to you about 5 minutes beforehand. And so I'm pulling and things at random, just trying to get this boat to go any sense of direction and at least go in a semi-normal sailing pattern. I hear John giggling from his paddle boat next to me. But what I really hear is from the shore, is I hear the screams of, put the sail on the port side. The port side. Port, port, port. And there's Grandpa yelling at me to put the sail on the port side of the boat. The correct response for me at this point would have been not to say a word, put the sail on the port side of the boat, knowing that there's only 2 sides to a boat, and say, got it, thank you. But my brilliant idea was to yell back, I don't know what the port side is. Which immediately prompted, your left, the side it's not on. Response. So I listened, I fixed it, I put the sail on the port side of the boat and immediately caught the wind and started sailing. And I was legitimately saying the only time in my life I was doing so. And to this day, thanks to Grandpa's lessons, I know that port and left have the same number of letters in it. And I know the difference between port and starboard. So it's stories like these that I think each and every one of us have. Stories that remind us of the great times that we had when we were with Bill. And I want to use the next part of today's celebration to give those of you who want an opportunity to share what Bill meant to you. I'd like to invite up Richard Skort and Larry Christensen to share their stories of Bill. And also, if you have anything you are willing to and wanting to share today, please, this is your time to step up and share those memories after these two are finished speaking.
Good afternoon. This is a celebration of life. And when Barb Pelst told us about the passing of Bill, she said they weren't going to have a funeral, but they were going to have a memorial service. And I thought, no, Bill would have wanted a celebration of life, okay? We've known Bill and Barb for over 34 years. We cruised with them. We celebrated our 30th anniversary in New Orleans and a cruise the Caribbean. We almost killed Bill that night because we shared a room in New Orleans because the hotel space was tight. And we got into an argument. I forget what it was about. But the 3 of us had decided we were going to kill Bill. Well, we made it through the cruise. And the thing is that I'm not a musician. I don't know, couldn't play anything. I'm not a sailor. I have a degree in fun. I'm a recreation administrator for 30 years. I have a degree in fun. And we had some fun times along the way. We did. And the one thing about Bill that probably most of you don't know is the more he consumed alcohol, the louder the voice went. And so we had some interesting discussions over the years. We would spend New Year's Eve bringing in the New Year's, and we would listen to jazz stations all along the way. In New York, in St. Louis, in Colorado. And you got to remember one thing. I played baseball. I came from Cal Valley. I knew nothing about jazz. My mom and dad, they listened to country and western. And so, over the years, Bill had a tendency to wear and rub off on us. And really, I love jazz. It's because of Bill. He rubbed off on me. He really did. And, he had a way about himself, and he was not afraid to admit it sometimes. He wasn't. One of the things I remember is that Bill loved his Crown Royal. And and I go to Arizona every year, and I get Crown Royal because it was cheaper. We'd go to Mexico at that time, and it got cheaper. So one year, I brought back the Crown Royal, and I asked Bill, I said, can I have the little purple bag? I said, I'd like to have the purple bag. I think that's really cool. He said, there's a problem with that, Rich. He said, here's the deal. He said, after I consumed the Crown Royal, I put the cheap stuff in, I put the bag back on, and when the boys come over, the three, they get the cheap stuff. They don't know the difference. Maybe they know the difference now, as they go. But I sure want to get a purple bag, okay? But yeah, he had a way of himself. And like I said, I have a degree in recreation, and so we lived with the island. So Bill would come up with a boat. Bill and Barb would come up with a boat, and we lived right in Coupeville. So they dock in Coupeville. And one weekend, we made a trip over to the Connor, and had a nice, Barb's got to go to the bunny shop. That's her one, because her bunnies. And we go over there, and we had a nice dinner and everything, and got back on the boat. And we get out of the strait, and we start heading towards, and at that time, he had the boat that had the two engines, but one of the engines didn't work and all that stuff. And we get about just where the Deception Pass is, and this storm comes up. And it's really rough. I mean, we're talking swells, and I don't like boats, okay? And so the boat is rocking, and it's just, and all of a sudden the engine goes out. And there's us and some other friends, and me, I'm panicking because I run the marina at the Naval Air Station. I don't want to call my guys and tell them to come and pick me up. And it took about 1 minute, and Bill, being Bill, he said, Barb, you know what we got to do, don't you? Sure enough, they put up the sails, and it took us a little bit longer time, but we sailed back and forth until we got to Singapore. And to this day, when I see that type of thing, it's marvelous to me. We always had one of the things that people didn't realize is that Bill did love Christmas. There's no doubt about it. I don't know if you knew this, but their home was on the list of homes to visit during Christmas time at one time. They really were. And that was his thing. One of the things we used to say is that we tolerated Bill because of the love of Barb. And we were not afraid to tell him. But we also knew that it's a partnership of life. And Barb couldn't do the things that she loved doing without Bill's support. There was no way. And vice versa. And we understood that. And one of the things is that we had been to those celebrations on Christmas Eve. When there was one more Christmas, my daughter didn't have any place to go. She's a single parent. And sure enough, Bill and Barb said, come on. And I also was reminded of, my daughter was a junior in high school, I believe. Freshman? And she's a senior. And they came to Seattle. They spent the night with Bill and Barb. And they were going to go to the Phantom down on the opera. And so they're getting ready, and they're going to go to the show and everything. And my daughter is dressed. She's got the best dress she has on, and she's got a little jacket on and that kind of thing. But it's a cold, cold night. And as my wife says, Rebecca just sort of shivering there and just couldn't handle it. All of a sudden, Bill says, Barb, why don't you go up and get her something nice to wear to keep her warm? And sure enough, they came up with something nice. And Bill and Barb were the kind of people that literally gave their shirt off their back to people. And for that you can't. There's nothing meant better. Probably the biggest thing that we remember, like I said, we've been friends for a long time. And our son had a bad accident on Riviera about 20-some years ago. And he was airlifted from an accident to Harvard. And we drove down. And at the time, my son was comatose. He ended up being ER or in that condition for 11 days, and then he went to UW for rehabilitation. And my wife had decided, Kathy had decided to take off because there's no way, she's not going to let her son be without somebody there. And Barb and Bill opened up their home. And Kathy stayed there for over a month and a half at their place. That's the kind of people Bill was. And to them, yes, Bill, it's music, it's his sailing, it's his family without a doubt. It's his family without a doubt. And it's also friends and people who you take care of people. And yeah, he badmouthed my Seattle Mariners, but that's okay. The biggest thing that we were very fortunate to take the Alaska cruise with Bill and Barb in August. And Bill's health was very difficult, very trying for him. But he kept his spirits up, and he made it a great experience for us. And we went to dinner and that type of thing each night, and he pushed himself, he did. And I want to encourage people to remember that it is a celebration of life. And his memories will be with all of us, one way or the other. And yeah, when we get done here, I'm going to probably toast him. Because he always had one on the board for me, so what can I say? But again, I want to thank Barb and the family for giving me the opportunity. I would not have missed Bill's celebration. Thank you.
Always takes longer anymore. Barbara, Debbie, Laura, and Stephanie, Jim, I've known you all for a long, long time. My name is Larry Christensen, and I met Bill in junior high school at Puget Sound Junior High, and met Barbara during that time also. Bill and I were involved in some activities at Puget Sound. For instance, he and I both turned out for football. Bill played right guard, and I played right on the bench, waiting for my opportunity to play. And I never got over that. And what's interesting, though, is that was the end of Bill's football career and the beginning of mine, fortunately, so at least things went in the right direction. While we were in junior high school, Bill wanted to form a little band, and don't be jealous. It was 4 Ps. Bill was on the drums, I was on the keyboard. Actually, back then we called it a piano. So we had a lot of trouble traveling with our music, but he was on drums, I was on the piano, and we had a couple of fellows on the saxophone. We learned one song, and we somehow snuck into the 9th grade talent show at Puget Sound Junior High School, which, by the way, is now a parking lot. So we had some great times. Back then, it won't be surprising to many of you to know that we joined the Sea Scouts. And we were able to put on used naval gear, and walk around with those. That was fun. Felt pretty proud. And we happened to go out with the Sea Scouts on their big boat in Seattle, and we had a great time doing that. I moved with my family down to Des Moines, and Bill, of course, stayed up in this area. And we both went to high school. Within minutes, we both became married and had children. And then we proceeded to enjoy a lot of activities, such as, I remember one trip to Harrison Hot Springs. And I remember pool parties at their home. My job was to throw Bill's daughters into the swimming pool, and their job was to try to act like they thought it was funny. They did a good job with that. I got involved in racing with Bill and Barb. I have to mention Barb because she was responsible for the food, which, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Bill invited me to go sailing with them, and I had never been on a sailboat in my life. And I'm thinking more along the lines of ballast. And that's what I started out doing. But it was really interesting to go sailing with Bill and Barb and the other crew. Bill was a great skipper, and he had a very friendly demeanor. Was not demanding of people. A lot of times we took votes on things, and I was like, "What do you think?" And we'd all at least have an opportunity to give our opinion, even if, like me, you didn't even know what you were talking about. But that never slowed me down before. So most of the decisions were pretty good decisions. But I think Barb will remember one time we were down in Des Moines. And it was blowing up pretty good there down in Des Moines, and the prediction was that we would have gale force winds within 2 hours. So we decided to take a boat. I don't know why we took a boat, but we took a boat. And we went around the cabin, and everybody was saying, yeah. And they got to me, and I said, no. And Barb was, no. So anyway, off we went. We lost the boat, and off we went, and we managed to. That was the end of Bill's football career and the beginning of mine, fortunately. So at least things went in the right direction. While we were in junior high school, Bill wanted to form a little band, and don't be jealous. It was 4 piece. Bill was on the drums, I was on the keyboard. Actually, back then we called it a piano. So we had a lot of trouble traveling with our music, but he was on drums, I was on the piano, and we had a couple of fellows on the saxophone. We learned one song, and we somehow snuck into the 9th grade talent show at Puget Sound Junior High School, which, by the way, is now a parking lot. So we had some great times. Back then, it won't be surprising to many of you to know that we joined the Sea Scouts, and we were able to put on used naval gear and walk around with those. That was fun. Felt pretty proud. And we happened to go out with the Sea Scouts on their big boat in Seattle, and we had a great time doing that. I moved with my family down to Des Moines, and Bill, of course, stayed up in this area. And we both went to high school. Within minutes, we both became married and had children, and then we proceeded to enjoy a lot of activities, such as, I remember one trip to Harrison Hot Springs, and I remember pool parties at their home. My job was to throw Bill's daughters into the swimming pool, and their job was to try to act like they thought it was funny. They did a good job with that. I got involved in racing with Bill and Barb, I have to mention Barb because she was responsible for the food, which, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Bill invited me to go sailing with them, and I had never been on a sailboat in my life. And I'm thinking more along the lines of ballast. And that's what I started out doing. But it was really interesting to go sailing with Bill and Barb and the other crew. Bill was a great skipper, and he had a very friendly demeanor, was not demanding of people. A lot of times we took votes on things. And, I was like, what do you think? And, we'd all at least have an opportunity to give our opinion, even if, like me, you didn't even know what you were talking about. But that never slowed me down before. So, most of the decisions were pretty good decisions, but I think Barb will remember one time we were down in Des Moines, and it was blowing up pretty good there down in Des Moines, and the prediction was that we would have gale force winds within 2 hours. So we decided to take a boat. I don't know why we took a boat, but we took a boat. And we went around the cabin, and everybody was saying, yeah. And they got to me, and I said, no. And Barb was, no. So anyway, off we went. We lost the boat, and off we went. And we managed to, I would say that we were pretty well destroyed somewhere south of Three Tree Point. And that was when we came up with this really great idea. Bill said, I have a storm jib I've never used. It's absolutely new and it will save us. So we proceeded to put up the storm jib, which, by the way, if you're not familiar, a storm jib is about as high as this ceiling and it's about this broad. You with me? Okay. So anyway, I'll explain to you later. So anyway, we put up the storm jib, and the storm jib stood up for 5 seconds, give or take, and that storm jib broke right in half. Okay, now that was plan A. And plan A was to find a way to save the boat from going up on the beach. So we then proceeded to start the motor, which disqualified us in the race, which didn't exist anymore. But we started the motor and turned on the propeller. It turned out that the boat was bouncing so badly that the propeller was out of the water more than it was in the water, and we couldn't make any headway whatsoever. So I'm not going to get into the part about how we finally figured out how to get around Three Tree Point, but we did. And we managed to get around the north side of Three Tree Point down close to where Bill's grandparents lived at the time. And Bill had this great idea because there were a lot of buoys that were running along the north side of Three Tree Point. So Bill said, we'll just tie onto one. So we tied onto a buoy, and before we knew it, that buoy was about a quarter of a mile north of where it was when we tied onto it, and it was destroyed. Now, these people on Three Tree Point know who Bill is, and Bill ended up paying someone for the buoy that we used. And what happened with the racing of the boat was the fact that first off, I didn't know anything, but over a couple of 3 years, believe it or not, I became a really good sailor. Now, compared to just regular people, that was great, but compared to sailors, I was kind of like right in there. I learned so much sailing on that boat. And in fact, I had the opportunity to join them on a couple of travels up to Victoria and to go on the Swifter race. Now, that was at a time when we didn't have this thing called GPS, where you can find out within 2 feet where you are. And we were navigating up there, oftentimes in the fog, and we learned what large ships traveling at about 25 knots sound like in the fog, while they're getting louder and closer. So this was exciting. And there was one time that, I'm sure we didn't do it, but we managed to dodge one, and you could have reached out, touched it. It was right next to us. So this was fun. This was what we called fun, right? This was a great time. Anyway, I kept sailing with Bill and Barb longer than you would think that I would have, because one night at about 2 o'clock in the morning in 35-degree weather and rain, and I'm sitting on the edge of that boat doing my duty as ballast, you start wondering if this really is the best thing to be doing at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So I stayed on because of the food, but I eventually had to move on. Years pass quickly, we all know that, and the fact is that our lives change and we go on to different things. But we always kept in touch, and one of the things that I will always remember, is Bill and Barb's 50th wedding anniversary. And it was almost like kind of a completion of something. Obviously, not the completion of their life, but just something grand that was completed. Maybe I have more appreciation for it because of the fact that I'll never celebrate a 50th anniversary. And I know people do, and I know people that have. And it's such an incredible achievement that I can't even express it. It's just, I can just experience it. And I noticed that day that it was truly an unbelievable experience for me personally, because of the fact that I knew Bill Schaub and I knew Barbara Morrison, and they got married, and they stayed together, and they had a family, and that family stayed together. And when I think of the legacies, we call it celebration of life. I personally can't think of a life or a marriage that I would be more respectful of and have more appreciation for. So, celebration of life. Bill Schaub.
I'm very nervous. I'm not on the program. My name is Kathy Snyder. And I want to share how, I can do this, how important Bill and Barb were and are to my husband Mark and I. We've known them for 34, 35 years, something like that. And, I'm the baby in the room, so. I remember their parties. And I remember at one time there was a group of us that would always get together and meet Bill and Barb's house. Richard and Kathy, Jim and Janie, Mark and Kathy, Bill and Barb. And they would invite us to their house for no particular reason, just come on over. And this part, Barb. Shortly when Bill started having health issues, I didn't want to do this. Shortly when he started having health issues, he would give us a call, because we live close, and I promised Bill that after his death that we will stay and visit Barb much more often than we have in the past, because we live a lot closer too. But when he was starting to get ill, and my husband was starting to get ill, thank God my husband's still here, Bill would call and talk to Mark, and they'd compare stories and say how important it is to be in each other's lives. We never did get down to that last party that we had so wanted to go to. But I agree with everybody who has spoke. Barb's a fantastic cook. She, whenever she would call us, say, come down for whatever it is, I'm fixing this. Well, hell, had to freeze over for us not to go. But we'll miss Bill. Because he was part of the circle that we once had. We'd go camping with a bunch of friends through Lamar here. And just the encouragement that he would give my husband to keep going, you know, one day at a time, Lord. And so when I found out that Bill passed, Mark broke down. Because he remembers those talks of encouragement. And I'm just babbling now, so I want to thank Barb. Because recently when Bill was in the hospital, I would go. I went once or twice. And we would encourage each other. It's going to be okay. Whatever's going to happen will happen. But I love this lady so much. She's an inspiration to me. And I can't wait for us to spend more time with you. God bless. I almost forgot. I have to leave pretty soon, and I won't be able to celebrate the rest of the day with you because I need to get home to my husband. But he was gracious enough to say, spend as much time as you want you there. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for all those wonderful stories, and it's memories and stories like these that make our sorrow turn to joy. And we remember that being around Bill was always filled with all these wonderful and great times. So I'd like to bring back Ron and the band one last time and to play one final song.